Hi there, you're listening to the Trading Through Coronavirus podcast brought to you from Business West with me, Nigel Barker. Over the last couple of weeks, we at Business West have been conducting a survey of businesses throughout the Southwest, and we've had a massive response. Over 1,100 businesses have actually responded to this survey. So thank you very much if you're one of those. But it's given us some fairly startling results. Only 16% of businesses in our region believe that they're going to be able to cope if this crisis, coronavirus crisis, lasts for more than 6 months. I'm joined now by Matt Griffith, our Director of Policy at Business West. Matt, what does this survey tell us about the business climate at the moment?
It tells us a lot of things, and thank you very much to all our members and other businesses who filled it in. I mean, the most striking things that come out of it is the degree of financial stress that companies are under at the moment in terms of what they're going through. So over 70% are saying they've lost orders, seen decreased sales. 50% are saying they've got cash flow issues. Quite a lot have lost contracts and other things. So we know that things are tough now. It also gives a clear signal, I think, of a degree of uncertainty and nervousness about the future, in that I think people, when you ask them about currently, there's a high level of concern about financial concern, but it's manageable. But if you start to think about what will it look like in 3 months, what does it look like in 6 months to a year, then you see really sharp declines there. So I think that signals a few things, but certainly it's the first we've really got under the skin of businesses and how they're feeling about the future.
So businesses are feeling uncertain about the medium to long-term future. Obviously, a lot of the decisions are out of their hands. What can they do to try and maybe restore a little bit of confidence themselves? Is there anything they can do?
On one respect, we actually now know the details of a lot of government schemes, and a lot of the government schemes are very generous, particularly the furlough scheme. So I think firms are now getting to grips with that and thinking about how they apply it. They're also starting to see money. So many businesses will now have got grants from their local authorities if they're eligible. So they're in a point where they kind of know what they're eligible for and can get. We're trying to plug the gaps on a lot of those, and clearly a lot of people thought this might last for 3 weeks initially, or maybe 6 weeks. It looks like it's going to be longer than that, and therefore how government support continues and how it plugs the gaps is going to be really critically important. So I think that's a key area we're lobbying for. For businesses themselves, I think it's a matter of seeing if you continue to trade. If you can't, looking at the furlough scheme, thinking about how you can essentially mothball yourself going forward and protect yourself. We've got quite a lot of advice on that on our website. And then it's trying to look for the future. And I think one of the things that's frustrating for businesses at the moment is that we haven't seen a national debate about what the exit strategy is, which means it's quite hard to plan. So we've heard initial talks about phasing, but clearly you need to know what a phasing would look like, what that would mean for your staff, what did it mean for certain types of business activity to become easier. And all those things haven't yet happened. That's understandable because we're in a national crisis and we've seen massive strain on the NHS. But it's the kind of debate we now need to start having, and I think we now need to start communicating, both feeding into government and also government feeding out about what the plan is.
What do we think the longer term economic impact is going to be on the region? Let's say, for example, in not just 12 months time, but 24, 36 months time for the Southwest, if this continues.
So it's quite hard to tell because it's so early, and there are lots of different theories going around. So you have people who think it's a V-shape, which will be sharp contraction, sharp bounce up. You think it's people who's a U-shape, which means it will be longer at the bottom and slower to recover. And then you have kind of L-shape, which is really pessimistic. There are good reasons to be optimistic in that there's nothing fundamentally changed for the economy. It's just people can't go about certain key areas of business activity, but the fundamentals are still good. So we hope it will be V-shaped. But the key question is, how quickly can businesses get back to full activity and to gear up? And that may require some degree of further stimulus from government. It may require some kind of intervention. I mean, the analogy I like to give is running a business is a bit like riding a bicycle. Right? You need to keep pedaling in order to stay on the bike. And if it falls over, then we need to think of new ways to get you on the bike, get you back in the saddle, and you may need a bit of a push to get back up. So that's a critical question. Will there be a national economic stimulus plan? Will there be a regional economic stimulus plan? And what sectors do we need to really encourage? What sectors might have longer term consequences or need a bit more help to get going again?
Do you think, from what this survey tells us, if this goes on, that we will get back to a business as usual? Do you think fundamentally we'll see a change in business within the Southwest and the types of business within the Southwest?
Well, you're seeing a lot of positive stories. I mean, we're using technology in a way that reduces business costs massively, so that's a positive. It's a real positive thing that you can work from home from the Southwest, because that's one of our strongest strengths, isn't it? The fact you can live in a great place and also still do business and be connected with the rest of the world. So those are really positive things. It really depends on the shape of how lockdown ends and the type of activity. So clearly, if social distancing stops slowly, some businesses will be able to recover more quickly. You hope the manufacturing sector already is keeping going to a large extent. You hope that will continue. For retail, you hope some more stocks will be able to open. But for highly intensive social businesses like events, it may take a bit longer. That may be a bit tougher for them. And equally, a big factor for our exporting firms is what international markets are recovering and how quickly. So you may see that Europe recovers quickly than some emerging developing economies who are really going to struggle with this crisis. So it'll be very variable. We're going to try and help and communicate what that means for businesses as this go on via our website and other channels.
Okay. Obviously, we're not talking about any exit strategy at the moment, but do you think that there's an opportunity for the Southwest and the Western Gateway to kind of get ahead of the curve and actually start to recover quicker than maybe other regions around the UK?
Yeah, our region's already pretty resilient, to be honest, because it's such a diverse region. We've got lots of different companies, which means that clearly if you have an economic shock, even if one is really badly hit, you'll be able to, hopefully the others will be able to recover. So we're pretty resilient compared to other regions, and we're also pretty economically healthy. So our jobs market has always been really strong. The general wealth and general wealth of business and IP, great universities. So all of those assets will hopefully mean as a region we can recover fast and maybe faster than other regions.
Okay. And obviously business is a lot about confidence. And confidence, at the moment people are okay. It looks like that starts to tail off. What do government need to do to restore or continue or create confidence within the business market?
So I think government's been doing the right thing so far. I think the Treasury and Rishi Sunak's announcements have been amazing, considering the time constraints and pace of events. Everyone I speak to has been very impressed with that. So the question for government's confidence is to remain clearly what happens with the virus. The counts going down are really important, but also to be able to say, look, we've still got your back. If this carries on, we've still got your back. And these are the way we think are a realistic way to come back to normal. And here's the plan for doing so. And I think once we start to see those debates, it's still quite early, remember, we're in third or fourth week. Once we start to see that, then I think businesses will be able to grapple with that and deal with it. There are a couple of areas where we need to get a grip. So banking and the availability of banking finance is really important. It doesn't seem to be working very well at the moment. And how businesses fill the gap that's beyond just direct government subsidy. But that is going to be the trajectory. So we as a business organisation will be leading, pushing and trying to articulate what a regional recovery programme would look like.
You talk about the banks and their lending. The CBILS scheme has had some conflicting reports as to how that's working. There were calls for the Chancellor to give it 100% guarantee on the loans. He's so far said only 80%. Should, in your opinion, he go to the 100% to really give the banks no excuse not to get the cash flowing?
I can see it from both sides. From a taxpayer and liability side, clearly there is a risk that if the government says we will underwrite 100% of all loans, that any kind of due diligence or assessment goes out the window from banks, and therefore you have a large liability on the national balance sheet going forward. So I can see why the banks might be reluctant. I mean, I can also see why the government is going to be reluctant to underpin everything they do without question. So, but at the same time, we are having problems. The money isn't getting out the door fast enough. Banks are reluctant. And we are in a situation where globally, this is a major financial contraction and stock market contraction. I think bank balance sheets are deteriorating. So in that context, understandably, banks are nervous about adding to bad balance sheets, and therefore government does need to step in some way. So I can see both sides of the argument.
Yeah, we've seen a different case in America where they've just underwritten 100%. In your opinion, just my final question. In your opinion, do you think that we're going to see any response from the government soon about an exit strategy?
So this is a live debate. It's a very live debate, but obviously the Treasury and the Department of Health. The government's primary objective is saving lives and making sure the NHS can cope. And that seems to be working. The death rate has been falling quite a lot in recent releases, so that's all good. And obviously the primary message is compliance with staying at home. I think if the death rate is shown to be sustainably contained and lowering, then I think we'll see to switch towards the supplementary economic plan and some easing to help with economic recovery, because the two go hand in hand. Clearly, this is primarily a health crisis, but it's also a livelihood crisis as well. Health and lives must lead, but livelihoods are important and need to be addressed. So I think the government's going to start seriously addressing this going forward.
Matt, thanks very much for joining us. Don't forget, you can find out more about this survey through our website, www.tradingthroughcoronavirus.co.uk, or follow the hashtag tradingthroughcoronavirus. And remember, we want to hear your stories and your experiences, so please do get in touch. Thanks very much.